What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Henry Wilson. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Playbook Game Day Show. We are here for the Monday 9-game main slate, and who better to break it all down than the man that was on today's playbook? Henry, my friend, how are we doing today, man?
Doing great, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, obviously you and I are Red Sox fans. You got the Red Sox Marathon Monday hat on. I got the Red Sox shirt on. Connor Crawford, fantastic. Bullpen and offense, non-existent once again here for the Red Sox. So that's been a bit frustrating for us here that are Red Sox fans. But at least we can turn the page. We can focus on tonight's MLB DFS slate and, make up for it by winning some money, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, rough 6-0 loss to the Guardians. Not to mention Tyler O'Neill and Rafael Devers colliding with each other, and where they're both going to be concussed there at the end of the game. But yeah, Crawford was awesome. So
8 stitches for Tyler O'Neill, going to be reevaluated. They said Devers is fine; he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. But the best hitter on the team basically so far this season has been Tyler O'Neill. It feels like from a production standpoint, and now he's out of the lineup. I had shades of Adam Duvall from last year. He got off to that super hot start, breaks his wrist. He's out for a while, really struggled to sort of regain that form. And now you have O'Neill likely to miss some time here with the eye injury. But that's what happened in the afternoon. We're here to talk about the 9-game main slate. We appreciate all of you that are tuning in here today. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It is a free way to support what we do here over on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel. You just hit that button, hit the subscribe button. We go live here every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have the pre-shows available for you guys as well to get you guys ready for the slate release in the morning. We have NBA and NFL shows here on the Fantasy Alarm channel. So plenty of content for you to absorb throughout the week. But we want you guys here with us live to break down this slate. We got Julian in the chat saying, "Hey, gents, let's get it." I'm ready to get going here. Henry, how about you?
Yeah, let's get after it.
All right, we got 9 games here. We always talk about pitching on the MLB DFS slate because depending on the day of the week and the turn in the rotation, some slates have great pitching, some slates have not so great pitching. This one's maybe a bit of a mixed bag. We have the top price starter on the board, Tyler Glasnow, coming off of a 14 strikeout performance. He has $11,000 here on DraftKings going up against the Washington Nationals. And then it kind of jumps down. Merrill Kelly, Frankie Montes, George Kirby, Musgrove. Like, what are your initial thoughts when looking at the top tier price-wise of the pitching position?
Yeah, man. I mean, Tyler Glasnow, $11,000 seems like crazy, crazy high, but also it's Tyler Glasnow. We just saw him strike out 14 batters against the Twins, and obviously the Twins do strike out a fair amount. He is now facing the Washington Nationals, who don't strike out as much, but still been striking out some, and their offense isn't good. And with someone like Tyler Glasnow, I'm not as much worried about this team doesn't strike out a lot because everyone strikes out against Tyler Glasnow when he's pitching well. So I know $11,000 is a lot, but I think it's just so hard to still not play him in this type of slate when the upside is so huge. And if he's not in your lineup and he goes out and gets another 14 strikeouts, it's going to be really hard to win without it.
Right. Initial run on our ownership projections have him sitting around 40% tonight as well. So, again, large field tournaments, everybody's sort of plugging in Tyler Glasnow because, of the points that we got here. Now, the thing is, at $11,000, if you get a 21 fantasy point performance like the Giants game, it doesn't really pay off the value that you're hoping to get here. To your point, the Washington Nationals this year, now obviously small sample size, but this goes back to last season against right-handed pitching, only a 20% strikeout rate on the year. So they've really done a good job. Again, they don't hit for a lot of power, this team, but they work counts and they slap balls in play and they don't strike out a lot. So I do have a slight hesitation on Glasnow, but you're right. Elite strikeout pitcher finds ways to get strikeouts here. So even in a down strikeout game, maybe he strikes out 7. Right. And that's enough if he shuts them out over 7 innings. So I definitely like the Glasnow approach here. This morning show, Howard was all about Frankie Montas. I coined the Seattling with him that he likes to reference here. No surprise against right-handed pitching. Seattle, number 1 in strikeout rate at 31.4% on the year. Frankie Montas has had a couple of okay outings so far this season, coming off against Milwaukee game, 5 innings, 3 earned, pitched better against Philly and Washington to start the year. Where does Montas rank for you on tonight's slate?
Yeah, he's up there. He's not my favorites. He's not in my top 2 or 3 even. Maybe I just don't give Montas a lot of love, and I
Sure.
should, because it's hard for me to come up with a lot of arguments against him. He's been fantastic. He's going against Seattle, strikes out a lot. It's not in Cincinnati, so you don't have to worry about that. So, again, I don't have a lot of arguments against him. I think he's great. But I have a couple guys that I like more. When you've got George Kirby and Sonny Gray sitting right there, that I'm a big fan of.
Sure.
And George Kirby, I know, has not been performing to George Kirby. The last 2 outings have been kind of rough.
Right.
Only 5 strikeouts through a little over 7 innings. He's given up 13 earned runs. But I also think that means a lot of people are going to be shying away from him. And I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I haven't been worried about anything I've really seen from him throwing. And I think he can bounce back and do some damage against the Cincinnati lineup. And I'm kind of okay taking the risk, even off of 2 shaky starts, that George Kirby can be George Kirby.
Yeah, you get Cincinnati obviously out of their home ballpark where there's a lot of offense that can be had around there. Cincinnati, 5th highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitching this year so far, 27.3%. Again, they do have almost a near 200 ISO, but when you're hitting in a hitter's park like Cincinnati, sometimes the offensive numbers get inflated there. You mentioned Sonny Gray, BMAC in the chat, also talking Sonny Gray here as well. We did get the note before we went live. 75 pitch limit for Sonny Gray here tonight. Obviously, he had no problems in his first start, throwing 64 pitches of 5 shutout baseball against the Phillies. He got the win, got you 22 fantasy points. So all of that is fine. If he can repeat that performance, we'll give you an extra 10 pitches. That's great. But knowing that 6 probably is a ceiling, and that's assuming that he is pitching as well as he did last slate. Now it's Oakland. They have the 2nd highest team strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. They have just a 210 average and a 280 WOBA against right-handed pitching. So a lot of great numbers here potentially for Sonny Gray going into Oakland. But does that pitch count worry you at all?
Yeah, here in 75 does worry me a little bit. I was hoping they'd let him go closer to the 80 or 90, but I'm still totally willing to play Sonny Gray, because even 75 pitches, sure, maybe he's not going to get a full 6, but 5 innings with 8 or 9 strikeouts against this Oakland team, right, and 75 pitches is still very, very possible. So, I mean, we knew he'd be semi-limited. There's only a 2nd start of the season. Was hoping the pitch count would go a little higher than that, but that is not enough to shy me away from playing Sonny Gray at 8,500 today against an Oakland team.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. We talked about it on the pre-show this morning, me and Howard Bender. And I sort of said the same thing you did. It's if he gets 80 pitches today, we might get 7 innings out of him, the way we've seen Oakland's offense go and whatnot. 75, obviously, is okay. It's nothing great, but it's not terrible. So I'm kind of riding that with you. I also liked Seth Lugo today, minus 170 favorites on the money line going up against the White Sox here. Obviously, the Royals offense has been cruising. I'd like to see more strikeouts out of Lugo. He did just face the White Sox a few games prior to them. Only had 3 strikeouts and 17 fantasy points in that game, but kind of willing to bet on Lugo just given the win equity he might have in this matchup.
Yeah, I like Lugo as well. Again, we want to see more strikeouts out of him. He's only had an 11.8% strikeout rate so far this season, but we're talking about a guy who's a career 24% strikeout rate. The strikeouts are going to come back, and who better to get the strikeouts back against the White Sox, whose offense has not looked good. So, yeah, I'm totally good with jumping on Lugo. I think the strikeouts will start to come back, and even if they're not fully back, if he can at least get you, 4 or 5, which seems very, very reasonable for Lugo, and I think he could even spike more than that. Great chance of it to win, and not a whole lot of damage probably happening against him with the White Sox lineup. So, yeah, I like Lugo.
Our guy Em Rojas saying he's got Kelly and Kirby as his duo here today. Certainly can't hate. I've always been a big Merrill Kelly guy. He's at home against Chicago here. BMAC bringing up Martin Perez. This is a guy that Howard and I it's not that Howard wasn't in on Perez. I was the one that brought him up. I said I kind of liked him given the current form. We've seen Martin Perez obviously be an all-star in Texas, got off that super hot start. Pitching really well. No, quality opponent over the first 3 starts. Hasn't really been there. The Mets offense is starting to heat up a little bit. You look at the Mets numbers against left-handed pitching this season, they're actually kind of elite. In terms of weighted on-base percentage, 2nd in baseball. In terms of ISO, they're 4th. So this is not going to be the easiest of tests for Martin Perez here going up against the Mets. But, what are your thoughts when it comes down to this 8K and below range? Bender liked Luis Gil here against Toronto, maybe as a pivot down from there.
Yeah, I don't hate Martin Perez. He's looked awesome so far. I mean, 8 innings his last outing. That's fantastic. But yeah, the Mets offense still kind of scares me a little bit, and I just don't think the
Yeah.
upside is super high with Perez. I also prefer going for Louis Heel there. He is just, I think, a better pitcher with a lot more upside than Martin Perez is. And the Blue Jays offense has been pretty meh. Like, they're just not doing a
They got their
whole.
Freeland like a little bit yesterday, but most teams have been teeing off on Kyle Freeland, right? So
Yeah, exactly. How much can you really put weight into being able to hit Kyle Freeland?
right, exactly. Now, obviously, Luis Hill last start was against Toronto. Sometimes a team seeing a pitcher for the second straight start, can go either way here. Didn't get through 5, had 95 pitches, but did have 8 strikeouts. Definitely has produced good strikeout numbers: 6 and 4 and 2/3, 8 and 4 and a third. So the strikeouts alone have obviously allowed him to kind of hit his value. 18 and 17 fantasy points. I don't hate that. You get him in Toronto. I know they moved the walls in a few years ago, but it's not Yankee Stadium in terms of offense. So I do think he could be fine. After that, there really wasn't much else for us on this board. Was there anybody for you that you liked as a value pitcher?
No, after him, there's no one I want to touch here. I like the talent that Nastrini has, but in a debut against a Royals offense that's been pretty strong,
Right.
no, thank you. And yeah, I think all of the options past that are just too scary for me to go after.
Yeah, I agree with you. So just kind of recap. I see our guy Don in here saying this is his first time trying baseball, wants to know what we should be looking for. When it comes to starting pitching, we're kind of in agreement. Tyler Glasnow is the cream of the crop here. Getting a lot of ownership put his way as well, almost 40% on the early runs. Now, we've seen the late runs on ownership come through, and and we've seen that kind of drop down at times. So, we'll have the updates in the Discord for everybody, so make sure you check those out there. But we like Glasnow. Montes we're okay with. George Kirby is one of Henry's favorite guys there. We're both okay with Sonny Gray in the mid-tier despite the pitch count, and Seth Lugo there in the mid-group as well. And then Louis Gill, I think, is where our value is going to run here today at the pitching position. Moving on over to catcher, I like to just sort of find the cheapest catcher that's on the board and just plug in. It's not to say that like Will Smith tonight isn't a great matchup against Parker making his debut at the lefty-righty spot there. I think the Dodgers are going to be pretty popular. But I just find myself looking to spend down. If you aren't in on Perez, you have Francisco Alvarez. I think Hauser's a gas can. I know Henry Davis hasn't gotten off to a great start, but there's some power in that bat. Alejandro Kirk, if you're not going Gil, you could go there. And then Freddie Furman against Nastrini at 28. I don't think it's terrible. No Salvi Perez today.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thinking as you. I like to really spend down. Sure, yeah, you could go Will Smith. Wilson Contreras is a decent play, but yeah, I really like spending down. And could go Alvarez. He's kind of not as the cheap end, who is batting 6 is a good power bat. But I also don't hate going Freddie Furman, who has a little bit of power too, and being in that lineup against someone making their MLB debut, and he costs $2,800. It's just with catchers such a wasteland. I don't want to waste a whole lot of money in there, so I kind of like going down there.
Yeah, a bit of a slow start for Furman here, but last year, obviously during his rookie season, had a 780 OPS, 280 batting average, had 9 home runs in 70 games. So definitely could have a little bit of pop. Now, guys, we say this all the time. Not everybody's lineup is out yet. So when we do get official lineups that come out, we'll see who's starting, and we'll get a better idea of what catchers are on our board. So make sure you are checking in on these official starting lineups. We have the lineups channel in our Discord that gets updated as the lineups get made official, so you can certainly go and check that out there as well. And I know my phone's blowing up because lineups are starting to come through now, so we'll get a refresh here momentarily. But let's move on over to first base. Talk to me about your top first baseman today.
Yeah, I mean, I love first base position. There's so many good big bats here. You can't really argue against anyone going after like Olsen, Otani, Freeman, Alonso. They're all great, but I love saving a little bit of money and going all the way down to Vinny P. Vinny Pasquantino has been just looking awesome. He hit another home run yesterday off Edwin Diaz, who's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And now, again, he gets a rookie to go after. And I think just this Royal offense has been legit. I've been talking about them, I feel like, probably too much. Maybe I need to tone down my Royals love lately. But Vinny Pasquantino is just a great hitter, and he looks locked into the plate right now.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I think people forget because obviously he, the time that he missed last year, was one of the better prospects that got called up. There was a lot of hype around him when he was called up to the Royals based off what he did in the minor leagues for them. Last season gets hurt, misses some time there. Slow start to this year, but rounding into form and hits in a great spot in this Royals lineup. I'm definitely in on that. That was one of the first basemen we plugged in to our lineups this morning as well. Joe Musgrove has not been very good this year. Rhys Hoskins is $4,800. I think Milwaukee could be a little bit of a sneaky stack at home tonight going up against Musgrove. So if you want to get a middle of the order bat against Hoskins, and then like you mentioned, you can't really go wrong with any of the top guys here. Matt Olson against Aaron Getty, who had negative fantasy points, didn't get out of the third inning or second inning in his debut. And then you have Pete Alonso again going up against the lefty and Martin Perez. I think both of those guys certainly play out. For value, what are your thoughts on someone like Rowdy Tellez, Jake Bauers? Anybody for you down here?
Yeah, I really like Rowdy Tellez. He's batting in the 4-hole going against Hauser, who's very hittable. So getting the value of, how many cleanup hitters you can get that hit power like Rowdy Tellez for that cheap. That's a pretty good spot to go. I also like Michael Busch. I haven't haven't been a huge Busch believer in the long run, but the dude's hit home runs in 4 straight games, and he has multiple hits in the last 3 games as well. So riding the hot hand, Merrill Kelly is a great pitcher, but Michael Busch is just crushing the ball. So it might not last forever, but I'm okay spending only $3,400 to see if the hot streak continues.
Right. It's like when you just rode the Christopher Morel train last year, right? You plugged him in until he got cold, right? And right now, a guy like Michael Busch, you just play him. Kelly is a ground ball guy, but like you said, the way Busch is hitting right now might not matter. It can just elevate and hit a home run. So
it'll end eventually. Like one time you're going to pay that, and he's going to go over 5. That could be tonight, but it's 3,400, so the risk's not super high.
I agree. Moving on over to second base again. Obviously, there's top end bats here: Mookie Betts and Ozzie Albies. Kel Marte against Brown there. Altuve homered twice the other day. He's got Vines. What are your thoughts when it comes to top second baseman tonight?
Yeah, Altuve is my guy, and not just because he hit 2 home runs yesterday. It's not just yesterday. The dude's been hitting like crazy. He's off to one of the best starts of his career as far as like the first month of the season, and that's saying something. We're talking about an MVP here, and Altuve is just crushing the ball. He's looked so good. He's going up against Vines, who I really don't trust to do a whole lot today, and this Houston offense is pretty strong with him. And so, I just really like Jose Altuve right now. He's 3rd in the league in OPS currently. Dude's just crushing the ball.
It's funny he doesn't run as much anymore when stolen bases are kind of at a premium, and yet he continues to hit for power despite being like 5'2". So all that plays. I like Nolan Gorman for some power potential there against Stripling as well. Bryce Terang, $3,800. I've just been playing a lot of Brewers lately. So there's Terang at 38. Bender like Trilio there at $3,700. And then Kevin Biggio, I was producing when you and Bender were kind of crapping all over him, but he's fit 3,200. He's hitting 50. He's still hitting over 300 here. So if you're not on Louis Gill, 3,200 for Kevin Biggio in the middle of this Blue Jays lineup.
Yeah, I can't argue up against it, I guess. I think I also like Trill a little better than Biggio. I think he's actually pretty talented and going to continue to hit well, but I think I have to stop crapping on Biggio as much as I have been.
Until he goes on his over 20 route, right? But until then, the man's going to hit over 300. You got to give him a little bit of his flowers there. Value-wise, though, there's not a ton. Like, are you in on Lennon Sosa at 2,500? Like, you'll take a look at anybody else down here?
No, not really. I'm okay going down to that. Yeah, the Bryce Terang, Triolio, Biggio. Lower than that, I don't really see the value. I just don't think there's good enough bats to
agree.
Lower than that.
I always get a little shook when I see Nick Lofton hitting 6 because it's not a 6 hitter, but the Royals lineup's fairly top heavy, and they're without Salvi today, so that certainly comes through. Third base, Austin Riley's your top price guy. I think Michael Garcia is too expensive at $4,900. This was a position where I was kind of unsure. We ended up settling on Oswaldo Cabrera. The lefty numbers against Chris Bassett continue to come through. Bassett just cannot get these guys out from the left side of the plate.
Yeah, I really like Oswaldo Cabrera as well. He's definitely a good cheap option today. He's been a good cheap option for a while now, continues to hit well. But yeah, I agree. It's kind of a weird position. There's not a whole lot of deals, it seems like. And yeah, that top end, agree. Yeah, Michael Garcia. I like Michael Garcia a lot. But why is he more expensive than Arenado, Bregman, Machado? Like,
right.
That doesn't make any sense. I love the guy, but there's no way I'm paying that much for him.
No, this is a Royals boost, I think. Third base is usually a position you run down. There's like, it's super top heavy for 9 games. Like, I don't know, maybe because of 6:40 start times, we're losing some of the value that's generally at this position. But Riley for me is fine again, and then we kind of went down to Oswaldo Cabrera. I've been playing a lot of Brett Beatty. I'm not going to do it against a lefty.
No, not against a lefty.
No. Anything else for you, or you kind of good here?
Yeah, no, I'll give some love to Manny Machado, I guess, on that top end. Sure. I like the Padres lineup today. I kind of am over a Padres stack. I don't think Joe Ross has been pitching pretty decently, but I think that's going to end. I don't think.
Yeah, it's Joe Ross. We know unless he's transformed himself.
Yeah, it hasn't. Like the results have been there, but it's not real.
No, we know what Joe Ross is. So.
Yeah. So no, yeah. Like I don't think you can go wrong with Austin Riley, Manny Machado up there at the top end. Yeah. But yeah, I really like Oswaldo Cabrera as a kind of cheaper option. And other than that, I just don't see a whole lot of things to get excited about at third base today.
Yeah, I'm gonna say there really isn't much. Like maybe if Tyler Wade was again in the lineup, he could be your punt. Yeah. There, some lefty speed if he gets on the base somehow against Ross. But other than that, there really isn't much there. Shortstop. There's a lot more talent at shortstop. Where are you looking to go today?
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Mookie Betts or Bobby Witt Jr. If you have the money to really pay up at a position, this feels like the position to pay up for just because both of those guys are so fantastic. I can hardly decide between the two. I'm probably going to pay the extra $100 for Mookie Betts just because I think he's still slightly better hitter than Bobby Witt Jr., but maybe not. They're both just so wild.
Bobby Witt is number 2 in MVP voting or MVP odds right now. So
yeah, I mean, and he should be. He's been unreal. So no, I love both those guys. They are just any day they can go up and score twice as much as any other hitter on the slate. But I think there's some good options lower down too. I think Francisco Lindor against a lefty. I know Lindor has been awfully rough so far, but he hits lefties well. Martin Perez is pretty easy to hit. So I'm okay going after Lindor, even though it's been a little ugly so far at the plate for him. It won't.
Yeah, against left-handed pitching last season, much better. Hit 281 against them. He had a 292 ISO, 916 OPS, a 570 slug, a 380 WOBA against left-handed pitching. So this year, obviously, super small sample size. It's still a 250 ISO is legit. 500 slugging is really good. 320 WOBA. You can build on that, obviously, early on in the year here. But like I mentioned, the Mets are basically a top 5 offense against left-handed pitching so far to this point. And, again, we've seen Martin Perez pitch well for stretches. This will be, one of his first real tests there of the season. I think if you're looking just for a contrarian play, you can go O'Neal Cruz here. We know the power is legit. We know we can steal some bags. And again, I don't think much of Hauser, and nobody's really playing him. They're kind of going up, like you mentioned, to Witt or Betts, or like we all kind of like Lindor down there. So I think those are some certain options. I always play Jeremy Pena. I'm upset the price is starting to rise up on him a little bit, back up to 4K, but hitting over 300, has a little pop, has a little speed there in the mid-tier range. So could go him. Ha-Seong Kim in this range as well for some value. What else are you maybe looking at for some value?
I also like Orlando Arcia. He hasn't done much the last couple of days, but again, we're talking about Arrighetti, who I think is going to get crushed. So a Brave stack that you can get some of those cheaper, like a bottom half of the lineup Brave stack can sometimes work super well. And so I like Orlando Arcia, at 3,900 at shortstop. He doesn't have any home runs yet this year, but he's a good hitter for a defense first guy still. He still has a good bat and is one of the best lineups in baseball.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah, he had a ridiculous splits against left-handed pitching last year that would surprise. If I read you off his numbers, you'd think oh, you're talking to me about Ozzie Albies or something like that, and instead it was Orlando Arcia. Just for my own benefit here, I'm just going to read them off so you guys can get the context. Though they're facing a righty, so this isn't even really relevant. I just want to speak to Orlando Arcia's prowess against southpaws for future slates. Last season, he had a 302 ISO with 1,000 OPS against left-handed pitching. Orlando Arcia. at a 302 ISO. I mean, that is absurd for a guy like that. Value, I don't know if I think I just saw the Cardinals lineup come out. Mason Wynn's got back-to-back games with 2 hits. He's not a 200 hitter. He's definitely a better hitter than we've seen at this point. You're getting him at 2,500. He can steal the bag if he gets on base. I don't hate this. Again, Ross Stripling's okay, but he's nothing special. So if you're looking for a straight punt and he is in the lineup, he wasn't playing Sunday. So I'm assuming he's back in the lineup here today. I don't hate Mason Wynn as just a punt play and see if he can keep the hit streak going there.
No, I like Mason Wynn. I was a big Mason Wynn believer to start the season. I think he was getting really undervalued just because he was bad last year in 37 games, but that's such a small sample. I think he's just very talented. He's hitting 349 this year. It's come with not much power, but when he's coming for that cheap, if he can just get you a couple hits and maybe steal a bag, he's going to return that kind of value. So no, I like Mason Wynn. I think that if you're really looking to punt at shortstop, he definitely feels like the best hitter that you can get anywhere close to that price.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're just asleep at the wheel, I think, with him because they again, the algorithms are still just plugging in, basically factoring last year's numbers. He was a good hitter getting up. I know he's a defensive first guy, but hard to find a value like that with the potential that could be, especially if you want to spend up. But you want to spend up on a couple of bats. The cover of this morning's show was Juan Soto. Again, Chris Bassitt's numbers against left-handed pitching are hitters are pretty brutal. For me, Juan Soto is my favorite play of the day. And I think I probably don't change too much off of that. What's your favorite spend up outfielder?
Yeah, I'll double endorse Juan Soto as being like, it's really hard to ignore him going up against Chris Bassitt and how awesome Juan Soto has been to start the season. I also love Marcell Ozuna. I know his price has jumped a bit, which makes it a little harder to really want to go after him, but I think it's worth the price jump because Marcell Ozuna has been amazing. He is tied for the lead in the league with home runs with Tyler O'Neill. Also, I think second also only to Tyler O'Neill in OPS. Like, he has been just absolutely crushing the ball. And so, again, he's still cheaper than some of those other top guys in the Atlanta offense, even though he's now coming in over $5,000. But he's just been so good that I like paying even the additional added price for Marcell Ozuna.
He's certainly worth it. Only one game this season has he not gotten a hit. Last year, his second half last year was historic. One of the reasons why he had I think he ended up getting 40 home runs on the last day of the year there. Totally okay with you there. Just giving you some of the Chris Bassitt lefty numbers. Last season, lefties had a 357 WOBA, a 504 slugging percentage against them. They hit 21 homers off Bassitt. Now, obviously, limited sample size. 32 total batters Bassitt has faced from the left side. They have a 597 WOBA, an 852 slugging with 3 homers this year off of Bassitt. So, again, you just cannot get lefties out. So I'm big on Soto. I like the Ozuna call there. If you wanted to go Houston against Vines there, you have Alvarez and Tucker certainly in that range work. Teoscar Hernandez against a lefty and Parker. We haven't talked a lot of Dodgers, but Teoscar is a really great bat against lefty bats there, or pitching rather, at 4,900. I like Michael Harris at 47 in this tier as well. What else are you looking at?
Like all those guys you just said. I also like Lars Nootbaar down there going against Ross Stripling. He hit a home run in his first game back. So that's encouraging. I think he's such a talented hitter when he is healthy. So now that he's gotten a couple days under his plate, I think we're going to continue to see some offensive production out of Lars Nootbaar, and this Cardinals offense has to start getting a little better, right? Like,
I assume so. You got him there. You got Brandon Donovan at $4,200. If you're looking to go to the Cardinals, like I mentioned already, Mason Wynn is $2,500. Our guy BMAC mentioned out here, Gavin Sheets. I mean, he's basically one of the few power bats in that White Sox lineup. Again, lefty going up against a righty and Seth Lugo today, so could certainly go some Gavin Sheets. I like MJ Melendez hitting 5th at $4,000 today. Really strong spot, I think, for him. And if you're not in on George Kirby, Will Benson had a day the other day. He had 4 walks, 2 stolen bases. We know there's some power there. There's some stolen base upside. You got Willie B there at 4K as well.
I love Will Benson. Again, I'm a ginormous George Kirby fan, so maybe
Right.
not going after him today, but I love Will Benson. I think he's pretty awesome.
Nelson Velasquez is like the Royal I never play, and then he has a big day, and I'm like, why didn't I play Nelson Velasquez? But he's there at $3,800. We got Kelnick at 36. Jack Swinsky hit the grand slam off Wheeler yesterday. He's $3,600. Chorio's there. There's actually some pretty cheap Brewers outfielders. You have Chorio, you have Frelick, and you have Perkins rather down here at 32. I think all of them against Musgrove could be interesting today.
Yeah, I like a Dalton Varsho down there as well. If you're not going against Heel, he seems like really cheap he's hit 2 home runs in his last 3 games now. And again, the 196 average, I don't think is obviously he's not a good average guy normally, but he's better than 196.
Yeah, he's about 40 points lower than he normally is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's got the power, he's got the speed. I think it's really cheap for the fantasy value that he can provide on any day.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Jackson Merrill to really pop. The batting average has been great. Love the multi-hit games there. I know he's not projected to be like this tremendous power hitter, but maybe add some speed, maybe add some power there. I could would really help kind of push him over. But if you're gonna get double-digit fantasy points at 3,400, I'm not gonna really hate it. Our guy Mark, you saw his Sunday playbook crushed. I think he put up like 150 fantasy points with his lineup yesterday. He's talking Verdugo. Has started to hit a little bit better, and we're talking lefties against Bastard here. Any interest in the beardless Verdugo?
I don't know, not really, but maybe I'm being biased as a Red Sox fan who is just
he was terrible for
that he didn't provide much at the plate.
He wasn't Mookie Betts, so it wasn't never a fair trade.
Yeah, but no, again, it's against Bassett. So if you really are going to dive into that and stack some Yankees, you probably should be including Verdugo in that.
Sure. I definitely think that's probably a spot to go to. Yeah, Cavan down here. We talked Perkins already. Some other value plays down here. Anybody? Dubon?
Harrison Bader, Martin Perez. He's got 4 straight multi-hit games. And
I like that.
Bader's hitting well. Like, he does have the power speed as well that can come through. Obviously, no home runs so far this year, but
you get the wraparound stack too. He's hitting 9th, so you go Bader 9, then go Lindor and Alonso or whomever they have. I think Alonso hitting 2nd or the 3rd in that lineup. Where's Alonso?
Good question.
4th. Okay, it's in 4th there. Okay. So we got the Mets lineup is out. I don't know why I'm like just standing there. Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, but you can wrap around at any of those guys there today against Martin Perez if you want.
Don't hate it. Nimmo's someone who you can keep with a lefty-lefty matchup too. He kind of hits both sides. So
yeah. Tyrone Taylor had some days in Milwaukee. I don't think I'm going to go there. Kiermaier, not so much. Fletcher kind of sucks. Though he is 2K hitting 6th. So
yeah, I think that's it for me.
I agree with you. Let's get a lineup build here. Where do you want to go with pitching today?
Oh man, that's a great question. Do we want to pay for Tyler Glasnow? I think we both love Sonny Gray. Yeah. So, and we've also both like Lugo. So I think the question is, do you pay up and keep Glasnow, or do you go cheap and go Gray Lugo? I think you can go either direction.
All right, so if we go, we'll see what we can get for some money here.
Yeah,
if we do Glasnow and Gray, we probably can only afford one main spend up. So where do you want to go? Who's the one spend up bat for you today?
Man, that's who one spend up bat. I think if I have to pay up for anybody, it's probably. See, I want to say Mookie Betts, but that's such a major spend up that I feel like even your main spend up, you maybe need to keep it like 5,000.
We maybe. I mean, if we did Mookie, that would give us 34 a play. We obviously would be spending down a catcher. Probably locks us into like Mason Wynn at shortstop for $2,500.
Yeah, well, let's try it. Let's see what really cheap options we can get to build with Mookie if we go that way.
Wrong Win. Where's the WIN? That we got there.
Yes, IN. It's confusing.
Too many ways to spend the same to spell the last names here. So we do that. We like Furman at 28 as an option. So that gives us 37.6. We just had a couple of cheap outfielders that we were looking at down here as well. Astros versus Vine, says Angelo. Yeah, we're definitely in on some Astros.
Definitely can go after the Astros.
We were talking Altuve earlier. You mentioned Bader. I'm good with the Bader play.
Yeah, Bader is super cheap.
9. You mentioned getting past Quintino. He's 43. That's not going to kill us.
No, I don't like that.
Oswaldo at 36.
Yeah, we got to throw that Oswaldo in there. We both were in on
him. We got 4K for 2 outfielders here. We don't have a ton of lineup correlation, but we could probably get another value bat in here.
You could pair Nelson Velasquez with Vinny P.
Yeah,
maybe.
We could play them. We could get 3, 4, 5, but this would create what I call as the cardinal sin. It's doing a stack without the team's best player in it. So if
honestly, we shift the Mookie Betts for Bobby Witt then and just do full Royal stack.
Let's see. We do Mookie or Witt here. We need a cheap second baseman.
The only problem is we didn't like any of the cheaper second base options.
There wasn't great. Well, Kevin's 32. All right. And what was Nelson Velasquez? He's 38. Okay. So that gets us that gets us 2, 3, 4, 36. We could do Marte to go with Bader, or we could do Swinski as a one-off homer. We could do Verdugo. He may be hitting next to Cabrera in that lineup.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, probably better to pair somebody. I'd be fine with either Marte. Verdugo's probably a good call. I think. Yeah.
Okay, so we got an example lineup here, everybody. Again, Angelo, like the Astros call for sure. One of our favorite stacks to go up against tonight in that matchup there against Vines. But an example lineup for everybody here on the show. Tyler Glasnow, Sonny Gray. We fit the top price starting pitcher in there. Not too bad. With Gray, if you don't like Gray, there is a couple $100 to play around with it. If you want to go down to Lugo or to Martin Perez or Louis Gill, who we kind of like, give us a lot of money to play around with there. Furman as a punt catcher, Pasquantino. We're giving a little bit of a royal stack here. Kevin Biggio, Oswaldo Cabrera, Bobby Witt, Harrison Bader, Nelson Velasquez, and Alex Verdugo. Everybody, here's today's example lineup. Make sure you check out the playbook. I'm going to throw that into the chat right now for everybody. Done by yours truly, Henry Wilson there. So you can check that out. Forte will be updated with all the news as it comes through. We'll have new rostership updates as well. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. It is a free way to support the show we do here over at Fantasy Slam. Again, we go live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time to break down today's slate. We do a preview show as well in the morning, so you can check that out for all of us. Also, Henry, any final thoughts here for the people at home?
No, I'm hoping that those Royals calls work out. I think the last time we stacked the Royals on this show, they scored 0 runs. So let's hope that we're not just jinxing the Royals when we go after them. But no, I'm excited. I think there's some great plays here tonight.
Yeah, 100%. The Royals may be the Minnesota Twins of us last year. Myself and James Grande played the Twins. I think almost every slate, just waiting for the home runs to come. And occasionally they hit, but mostly they just struck out a lot. But we'll be back tomorrow, everybody. So make sure, again, you tune in, subscribe, and we'll see you later.